This hour sponsored by Addo, the power behind the storage.
This is NAB Show Live.
It's Monday, it's the first day of the show, so I've got some great guests here with me today. So first I've got Liam from NewTek, recently acquired, then Riikka from the IABM, Wesley from Celebro, and Nick from A Graphics. So thank you for coming. So today I wanted to talk about new markets and territories. Nick, I'll start with you. When you're looking at a new market or territory, how do you identify which are the best areas to go into?
I think you've got to choose a market that you're going to make a difference in. It's no good going into a market where it's well served, plenty of suppliers doing the same as you. You need to know it's somewhere where obviously there's going to be a lot of work for your business.
Yeah.
I think from our point of view, we're in sports broadcast. We chose markets where we knew that was a very vibrant market, lots of sport on TV and lots of sports rights.
So which countries is that you're in?
We're in India, South Africa and Australia.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Wesley, I know that you've entered into the US market recently.
Yes, I'm very much living the dream at the moment. So yes, we opened our first office in the US just over a year ago now. Obviously the project to get to that point was a lot longer. It's probably fair to also say it's still going to take us a little bit longer to get there. We had some very, I suppose, what looks like in hindsight, rather naive ideas about how quickly we would dominate the US market. And we've had a few surprises along the way. We've had to adjust our expectations along the way. I'm glad to say now we are back on track again, but it's certainly been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And it's going into a new market is not something I'd be doing again with quite jumping in with my 2 feet with such alacrity, possibly.
And do you feel like you had to tailor your approach?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, particularly, if you're going into a market, I suppose, English-speaking world, you're always thinking, oh, well, it's going to be easy. We all speak the same language. The reality is the language barrier in itself. There's no language barrier, but there are plenty of other barriers. And, it is surprising to see how different the US business culture is to the UK. I mean, absolutely, completely different. Alien almost. So that's been a real surprise, an unpleasant surprise.
An unpleasant surprise. And Riikka, obviously you lived in China as well, so you know about new markets. What's your perspective?
Yes, well now, as representing IABM and as we're advising our members who consist of over 550 companies, we often recommend that when identifying a new market, particularly an emerging market, it's important to do a profound professional market study beforehand and really invest in a local study to quantify the market size in the new territory, but specifically the addressable market size, because it's not necessarily the total market that you can address with your product and technology. So in this work, naturally, we would recommend to work with local third parties, or then, of course, do internal market research in-house as well.
Yeah. And Liam, obviously, you've broken into lots more new markets as well as just territories. And,
yes.
Obviously, the stuff that we've done together, like going into like trade shows like ISE and the AV sector.
Yes. I mean, for us, it's very much looking at where is our technology complementary to that market space. We're driving a lot of business within the broadcast sector using our NDI IP protocol, but we're now starting to find that we can unify different markets and technologies with that. So the same camera could be for AV or for production or for a teleconference, and we can start repurposing the same hardware. And if there's other markets that fit that kind of approach, delivering content, delivering video, media across the network, then we can embrace that and look at that market space.
Yeah, and has it been easy to break into different markets? I mean,
Yeah, it's very much so. I mean, we're quite fortunate in that over the number of years that NewTek's been going, that we have partners worldwide. We have a very established reseller network that's very territory-based, so we have local language support.
Yeah.
And then we have members of staff in those areas as well. So for us to expand into different verticals within those different sectors and countries is pretty easy for us in a lot of cases, if the technology is the right fit.
And how do you find, I mean, like Nick, like with your competition, do you watch and see what they're doing in these new markets or territories? Or?
I think the market research is key. We try and establish what clients are looking for in that market, where the gaps are, so we go and talk to them and see them. You can go in, obviously, there's that initial, when you enter a new market, it's great to go in with a proven product that from overseas does well, but ultimately you compare it against the competition, so you have to have something better, and you need to consistently deliver that. So that's really been our experience.
And what about you, Wesley, in terms of your competition?
So, I mean, one of the things that we found is the product that we started to offer didn't exist. And part of the problem was people didn't necessarily know they needed that product.
Yeah.
Now, that was good in some respects, because it meant when you went to look at your competition, we specialise in multi-camera live studios that can be rented for, an hour up to a day. At the other end of the scale are your kind of movie-style studios, which obviously are not for live television. Or at the other end, very small studios suitable for one or two cameras.
Yeah.
So we repositioned ourselves in the middle of saying, well, actually, we think that people want these kind of medium-sized, quite large studios, very high-tech, and they didn't exist. Now, what that's meant for us is having to look at what our competition offers. So, for example, one of our competitors might have offered a 5-camera shoot, but that would involve 5 camera people. Obviously, our huge advantage, because we're all robotic, then that enables us to have a more efficient production, but also a lot cheaper. So really analysing and understanding what your competitors offer is important, and then seeing what you can offer that is more. It's not enough just to be cheaper. You've got to be bringing some extra value to the table as well. And in some cases, as I say, that might be something that the end client doesn't yet know they want, but once they've tried it, they will love it.
They will do it. Excellent. So how do you gauge success? I mean, is it, do you set targets? Is it?
Yeah, no, I think it's always difficult in that first stage, because obviously you need to invest in upfront. You need to pull resources from the rest of the business. I think the key for us, the way we gauge a success, is if we can build out from that first initial contract and start to bring in more work in that region. And crucially, the real success is when it becomes a real local business, effectively, which is our aim that we've managed to achieve in all three, where you're entirely a local staff. Supported by the global business, but effectively seen as a local business within that market. So once that's established, it's regularly bringing in new contracts, and I'd say that's a success.
Yeah. What does the IABM like? If you're looking at new markets, what do you suggest to people in terms of how they can gauge the success of it?
Well, I also think that it's very important to have a local partner. And start actually from the market research might be a good way to also launch a partner search and conduct expert interviews with local distributors and dealers, agents, maybe regulation bodies, also potential customers, and that way gain knowledge that how the market actually and the sales network works in that market. Then when it comes to the setting up like realistic targets, I think it's relevant to also think of be patient in the time frame, that it might take some time, even a few years, to get certain license or reference sales, which are highly crucial when you are breaking into a new market. And in this work, naturally the local knowledge is in key position.
Yeah, what about you, Liam? What do you think?
In terms of gauging market success for us, it's going to be things like brand recognition, adoption of our technology and our approach. For us, we are a software-based company, and that involves some changes to it. But if we can become like a de facto standard in that market, in that area, then that's generally sort of deemed a success for us.
when you've looked at breaking into a new market, do you have a plan if it doesn't go right? Is there a is there a getter?
I think it's really difficult to pull out of a market that you've gone into. Obviously, that sends a real signal. So I can't ever see us doing that. I think we'd, at very worst, would scale back if it wasn't successful. But I think once you're there and you put the flag in, you're kind of committed. So I haven't really thought about that yet.
Yeah.
To be honest.
What do you think of your experience, Wesley, that you've been going through?
I mean, I think there's also an element here where sometimes new markets come to you. I mean, one of the things that we found in our day-to-day running of the studio was suddenly there would be you'd get these kind of trends that would just pop up. And I think it's really important that as a business, when you're starting to spot those opportunities and thinking, for us it just started off with lots more people wanting to do Facebook Live style broadcasts. That was just a thing that people started to want to do. So we then decided, right, there's a great opportunity here. It was really important for us as a company to then say, let's put some people on this, let's try to develop this, let's try to get to the front of this and start to lead on it. So I think it's also not just about sometimes identifying new markets, but also identifying when a new market has come to you. And really that's a golden opportunity not to be wasted, because what you want to do in those situations is make sure you're leading that market. If you're the trailblazer at that point, then you've got no excuse really for falling behind. So I think that's important.
Is there a particular country that is easier to break into, or?
No, I mean, obviously our experience was, as I said earlier, based on markets we thought we could make a difference, but we were fairly unique in that we covered world-class events in those markets before we broke into them.
Right.
So we use that very much as a kind of springboard for the commercial team to do the market research and engage with all the broadcasters within that market. So you had a great showcase of the company's talent, almost like a free pass to be in that market and really show a difference. So that kind of shaped and obviously English speaking, you can see where we are, we're kind of Commonwealth businesses. So the real challenge for us, the next step really is, to obviously once we open up in a market that's not primarily English speaking, I think that'd be a bit more of a challenge.
Yeah, I mean, how does it distract from your normal business, or
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I definitely feel the pain of that over the last year. We've been in massive US expansion, and it steals focus. There's no question that any expansion to a new market will steal focus, and you've got to be really careful that the whole focus of the building, of the organisation, doesn't just switch towards this new market. And certainly in our company, we were guilty of that, and we paid the price for it. So it's very tempting to see the new shiny thing as something exciting, and everybody wants to be involved with it.
Yeah.
But you need to keep the home fires burning as well, and that's really important.
Yeah, and is that from a team perspective, and having to keep?
It's everything, because any major project, it's going to involve everything from your CFO down to your kind of engineering department. Every single member of that team is going to be involved in it, and also you're going to have people with different, I suppose, biases or different prejudices or different desires. Some people aren't going to want to be traveling. Some people really do want to be traveling. So you've got to manage all that within the company as well. And it as I say, it can take over the day-to-day operations if you're not careful.
Yeah. What do you think, Liam? Is it like we're breaking into new markets as well? How does that distract from keeping your current customers happy, or do they?
I get it. For us, we're sort of targeting a lot of sympathetic markets already, so it's kind of it's not that big a distraction for us. If we were to go and try and go after sectors that were completely inapplicable, that didn't actually fit with the approach that we take, then that could be very distracting again, because we're just sort of trying to reinvent the wheel a bit there, kind of thing. So again, it's going to vary quite a bit. So.
Yeah. And what's your one piece of advice that you would give to somebody?
I'd say that first hire, local hire, is key.
Right.
I think the markets where we made a really good local hire early on, somebody who really understood the market but also understood what we did, that made a world of difference. Because obviously you can put management, part of that resource, you have to, that struggle is to be senior management into a particular market. But if you can find somebody early doors who really understands it, that makes a world of difference, I think. Just that real local on-the-ground knowledge can move the whole thing
How do you find those
fast.
people, though?
It's really hard. I mean, obviously, our sort of area of sports broadcast is fairly niche. This is a fairly small industry, so we've all worked in it for, well, me for 100 years. So you do know a lot of people already, so you've got a fairly good network and you know people. So, but yeah, it is hard, but I'd say that makes a world of difference.
Yeah. Wesley, what's your one bit of advice?
It's got to be to focus on the product. I mean, you know, you can get bogged down so much in the different jurisdictions, in the different legal situations, whatever. I think you've got to focus on your product first. Certainly as someone leading the business, that's what you've got to be doing, and the other stuff will follow. But if you're not pushing that product into the market properly, then you're wasting your time with lawyers to fix it. You're never going to fix it with lawyers.
Riikka, what would your one piece of advice?
Yes, I think definitely a great way to do risk management is to invest in advance for the preparations before entry, but also acknowledging that particularly if you go to an emerging market, it's kind of all in, that you cannot go with 1 foot and semi-do things and wait that the market comes to you. Of course, some trends will help you, but you have to have the foundations in place and really allocate enough resources and time and effort for the entry.
Liam?
If it's going to be sort of territory-based new market, so you're trying to get into a new country, then it is going to be local channel partners, local language support to help with that. If you can find established partners in that space that you can partner up with, then it's going to make life a lot easier. If we're looking at sort of market verticals, like in our case, looking back into the AV space and other areas, it's actually in ourselves having the ability to sort of think outside what that product currently is, and can it be used in another context? Can we bring all those things together and actually just taking that leap of faith with it? That with IP it works really well for us because it's all the same fabric. We can do different things on that. But we can stop thinking as a camera being for a particular job or a system for a particular job, and being a little bit brave with it always helps.
And what's everyone talks about China and APAC being where it's all going. Obviously, we've got the B word to cope with in the UK. So, what do we think that's gonna, is there a new territory out there where the streets are paved with gold?
I mean, I think the Brexit question is obviously one that affects almost every media company or every production company in some way, whether you're an exporter of goods or whether you're just working in a market, certainly in the UK at the moment, where there's a great deal of uncertainty. I think what's interesting is how we've seen possibly, for those of us that are UK based, a bit of a swing away from London in the last year to 2 years towards centres like Amsterdam, which is very interesting to watch, and I think that may continue. So the potential for things to change quite quickly, I think, do exist there. So Amsterdam for me.
Amsterdam.
Yeah,
that sounds great.
Excellent. Okay, so thank you very much for being on this panel this morning. Have a great rest of the show. They are saying that Christian Maghill from Christie Media Solutions is going to be Skyping in, but I don't know what's happening with that because I can't hear. Oh, look, there he is.
We're part of the UK Pavilion this year, one of 11 organisations starting this year, and with a booth for the first time. There's 40 of us in total as part of the Technology is Great area in the UK Pavilion. So it'd be fantastic if people are coming to the show to come by and see us in the South Lower Hall.
This hour sponsored by Addo, the power behind the storage.